Sustainable entrepreneurship development, future perspective. Our next speaker comes from the background of being responsible for investment and development of Latvia and Latvian businesses abroad and international businesses in Latvia. So it's quite a great background to have to think about sustainable development. So please welcome Kaspars Rožkalns, which is representing UPB NAMS now here as CEO. And let's talk about entrepreneurship and sustainable development in it. Perfect. Round of applause.
Thank you so much. Right, so good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are. I was the one who raised up the hand that I'm a little bit tired of sustainability, that everybody talks about that. And from business perspective, I'll try to explain why. Obviously, it is our future because we must achieve it, and that is a must. But we have a lot of talking, not that much in real action. A little bit about myself, as Valds already mentioned. Previously, I was in private sector, and last 8 years I switched to the public sector. Now at the end of that, my right side or black side or white side or dark side, that I cannot now know which one is that. But I'm now back in a private sector, and so I've seen the both sides. I've seen what the entrepreneurs are struggling, and actually on the government side, what are the challenges to develop a different type of legislation, and incentives for the companies to actually switch to more and more sustainable business models. Right now, a little bit about the UPB. UPB is one of the leading industrial holdings in the Baltic countries. And if we look at the Latvia side, we see that we have more than 2,000 employees. The annual revenue is more than 200 mil. Obviously, we're 30 plus years in a construction business, and we do a lot from the value chain perspective. In Latvia side, we are a general constructor. It means that we developed everything from architecture, then doing the designs of all the buildings, and then providing all the steps that you need to build actually up the house. And if we go further on, we're currently the market leader in a construction, and not only in the construction, in concrete prefabricated concrete production, in different type of glass production, for everything for the building construction. So we are very well vertical integrated company. If we look at the services that we have, and I'll get to the point why this is important. It is important that, as you see, the general construction is in the middle, but then we add up all the other elements of what is needed. The energy, the technical machinery, how to do that. The Industry 4.0, so the digitalization, the glass, the steel, the concrete. That's all the building blocks that you need to create the sustainable and sustainable housing, sustainable actually facilities there where you can live and work and so on. So obviously, how do we look at sustainable and responsible business practices? We see the ESG is obviously something that are coming more and more. We see that different type of certifications is needed to qualify for different type of procurement processes. Obviously, that's one of the government arm where they can order the companies to be more sustainable. So if you want to have a government contract, you have to have this, and that. So this is one side that what we're seeing, not only here in Latvia, but we do 60+% of our revenues from international markets, mostly from Sweden, Denmark, UK. And we are seeing that Sweden obviously is leading from the perspective of of market. The market is demanding the sustainable. And this is very, very, very interesting topic. If we look how really sustainable construction looks like, we can see that here is UPB sustainability certified projects. These are the projects that you can see here. Should be yes. These are different type of sustainability certificates. The most popular one in Sweden is this BREEAM, and I'll do a little deep dive later on a BREEAM. But the idea is that if you count the CO2 footprint and you certify that, that is the first step that we can count that sustainable projects. And what do we see here? Here we see that international demand for sustainable projects are steadily rising up to 2019. What happened in 2020? The COVID happened, yes. So this is the decline. Then we had 2 years of COVID, and then we had a year of a war. And what does it mean? It means that when the economy, overall economy, goes good or great, the environment is a priority. When we hit the crisis, we see the short-term crisis on the market. That's the market showing us. That the market is showing when we have a crisis, then there's a huge gap, and we don't care pretty much about the environment. And this is a reality check from the business perspective. When the market is not demanding sustainability, the business cannot, on the long term, do the sustainability because nobody is demanding that. So again, this is something that when we look at sustainable practices and long-term goals, this is something that we need to keep in mind. Then when the short-term crisis happens, we still have the long-term priorities, and this is probably something that we need to think ahead, because the crisis will happen again and again and again. We know that's the cycle, and there will always be some kind of the crisis. And again, when the next crisis hit, we still have to minimize this drop until the environment is the crisis on a short-term perspective. So, construction, concrete, steel, glass, that's one of the biggest problem actually to achieve the sustainability goals. So what can we do? From one perspective, from one end of this chart, the best what we can do for the environment is build nothing. So it means we just do not build at all anything. Can that really be sustainable? That's the open question. Obviously, on the other end of this spectrum, technically here is do not care and do nothing. So now the UPB group is actually here. What we do is we minimize waste, we reuse different type of already recycled concrete or glass and so on. We do the prefabricated products, so it means that you prefabricate like a Lego somewhere at the home, and then you build it very fast there, so you minimize the carbon footprint on transportation and carbon footprint on the locally if you do this there. Then the next is to build more efficiently. It means that to reuse the materials, try to reduce, and this is the most important part, the concrete is the end material, but the value chain. So you take somebody who creates the concrete with the already sustainability certification. Then you take the logistic chain who uses the less pollution on all the value. And then you count all together and try to be the best in the market. What is next? The building clever. This is here. This is somewhere we're reaching. Building clever, it means that what you do is you take the need of the normally the one building, the age of the building is 50 years. That's the life cycle. So you take 50 years from now and think, okay, what will be the environment like after 50 years? What will be the need for that building in 50 years? And then you take it back for today. How much can we adjust on the design phase, on the usage phase, the construction and the building material today, so whatever change is happening outside, the building is ready for that. So it means that you think on what type of climate will be here, or in Sweden, or it doesn't matter, but where you build a building in 50 years. What type of storms will be there? What type of, what's the summer like? What's the winter like? And then you try to adjust how much can you adjust for that building in 50 years for today and still be on today's market value. Because there's not that many entrepreneurs, not that many governments who are ready to pay for the 50 years life cycle today, because that costs a lot. So you try to adjust how much can you adjust for today with small adjustments on the way that the building will be able and agile to the change that will happen around it. Right. If we go further on, obviously this is all the production cycle where we investing, starting from usage of green electricity in production, using digitalization to have as short trips as possible, so as less carbon footprint as possible, to reduce CO2 reduction on production of concrete, to use as many and focus as many as BREEAM projects, so it means the green sustainable projects as possible, because if we do all this, we actually get more competitive advantage here. So if the governments or the companies are requesting this certificate and you invest here, then you are very competitive on a price here. So again, this the green fleet and zero waste in our new concrete production plant. If we look more on the concrete side, this is one part of the business, the concrete production, and this is our target on 2030 to be able to produce first carbon neutral concrete. This is how we see to reduce the carbon footprint on concrete. That's one of the biggest. By all the actions by 2030 to be able to produce the totally first carbon neutral concrete. Yeah, obviously this is again what we are seeing, that for the customers, CO2 footprint calculations for products. This is something that are demanding in international markets, not that much here in Latvia. So to provide the client with the CO2 reduction strategy, so they can report in their board statement that here we are building this and that and doing this and that in our company development, because this actually reflects their share price on stock exchange, what they are doing for sustainability. And obviously this is again something that we work with our partners or subcontractors to provide all and maximum chain from design up to existing building and reduce the CO2 emissions on every step of that. So on BREEAM, when you say BREEAM, what does it mean? That means all these circles that you have to take in mind. So you have to take in mind how healthy will be environment when the people will work in the building, how much pollution do you do now when you construct, and how much pollution actually it will be during the life cycle, and how much pollution it will be when you deconstruct the building and reuse it. So when you build it, so how much pollution in 50 years you will create from that building, can you reuse all of that or something like that? And obviously how much land resources you use, how resilient or against different type of the crisis the building will be, how much water you use there, and what's the on the transport, how much different type of transport connections will you have to that building here today? Is it just by car? How many parking lots you need? How many bicycle stands, and so on, so on. So all of that you have to involve in a BREEAM certificate. So that's very complicated. And when you say BREEAM, it's easy, but when you have to drill down to each of that, that is a hell hard job. So, and again, this is something that if the market understands it, the consumers can demand it. When the consumers demand it, then the governments and the businesses can react to it. If there is no demand for sustainable construction, then obviously the constructions that's going around are as the business as usual. Right, and there's a case study what we did. This is zero CO2 building here. That's the certificate. That's in Sweden, in Hili Terraces. It was opened, I think, 2 weeks ago. And you see, it's concrete and glass, and that's produced in Latvia. So this is something that we're able to achieve to CO2 zero, net zero on a building, but was made from concrete without actually the greenwashing the project. So it's not the concrete as usual, and just we bought some forest somewhere in Africa, but to be able to achieve it by design, by how we recycled the concrete, and how we established that together, and together with the future of ventilation, future of heating, etc., etc., the building was actually able to achieve no CO2 certificate. Right, so at the end of the day, the design and build, this is the concept that we are seeing is heading to this smart building, and that is something that we think that the market, that's the part of our strategy, the market will demand that. So to think more today, what will be the need in 30 years, and or 50 years, depending on the building, and then come back to that, to today's, and add to today's cost, because when you add something later on stages, if it's not foreseen today, it's gonna cost you way more. Because if you today have no ventilation, you think, hey, well, you don't need aircon. To build in the ventilation in a building that's not planned for air conditioning, it's super expensive. However, if you today build the part of the structure without aircon, but you have the designs where the aircon will come in if you need it, then obviously it costs you peanuts comparing to if you need to do all from scratch. So this is the holistic approach to the problem is something that we are seeing. The clients and especially the employees of the clients are demanding more and more, especially in the Nordics, that they are saying, hey, I want to go and want to work in a sustainable environment, and if the building, if the I don't know, all the services that the building provides are not sustainable, I choose different company. And that's something, that's our the droplet, that's each of our choice, where do we want to work and live, or where don't want to work and live in the future. So yeah, so this is our new prefabricated concrete production plant that we created on a zero waste. And obviously this is something that we show that you can figure out. Maybe it's not the most pretty building, but obviously this building contains all of the elements, what type of different needs will be on the building, needs will be on a concrete. So it's highly adjustable, and inside the building you can work with the Legos. Currently we do this, then we can switch different type of the concrete, then we can switch different type of manufacturing. We can add, we can reduce, and this is something where we used our own thinking ahead to use it on our business model and make it more sustainable. Right, that's from it. Thank you much. That's how the business are looking on sustainability.
Thank you, Kaspars. You were mentioning customers that in years of crisis they are just pulling back. What about financiers? Because European institutions were starting to push for banks to finance sustainable projects more. There's a percentage where there should be sustainable projects in the portfolio. What is the situation right now?
This is part of EU taxonomy process, let's say that, and the EU taxonomy, more or less, what does it mean? That means that the credit for the sustainable development, either in construction or other business models, but the idea that the cost of the capital, the money, is going to be less expensive if your project is sustainable versus if your project is not sustainable. The question or issue is or the target, it is a pretty complicated thing because we have to maintain the competitiveness against the other world. And that's very interesting because if the Europe becomes sustainable, we need other markets to also become sustainable. Because in Latvian case, maybe it's not that difficult because our overall exports, 80-something% is targeting to Western Europe. So it means that if they are sustainable and we are sustainable, that works. We can maintain the competitiveness among European Union. But how competitive on a taxonomy will be Europe versus China, that's open question if China does nothing. So that is then the question is how Europe will protect the inner market. So the products who are not counting the CO2 emissions, who are not doing the cycle economy, how they will compete against somebody who is doing all of that.
And we can't do anything about that outside European Union, right?
Now that's the goals of Paris, etc. So you have to influence other countries, but obviously I would say that Europe needs to lead the battle on sustainability, but we have to manage and we have to have a keen eye on the others who are not doing that. And we have to be vocal around the world because the governments, they listen to their people. And so we have to speak peer-to-peer to other students in other countries if they're not doing right. So they need to voice it up, hey, we want our grandkids to enjoy the environment on the same level that we are having or even better.
Thank you. Kaspars Rožkalns.